Good morning. Today is Tuesday, August 16th at 8:30 a.m. I'd like to welcome all the commissioners, staff, guests to the Finance and Physical Resources Committee this morning. With that, we're going to start with public comment. Is there any public that would like to address the Finance and Physical Resources Committee? Please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
How you doing, everybody? This might not be an agenda item. I'm not too sure if I have to speak solely on the agenda.
Nope, this is any related county matter.
Okay, cool. So my name is DeAndre Jones. I'm a committee. I'm a community member. I wanted to speak to you guys about some work that I'm doing in the community. So Urban Youth Summer Basketball League. We're in our championship, so we have the finals coming up on Friday. It was pretty cool to work with our youth in our county. Being able to keep them off the streets, give them something constructive to do. I was able to get an article in Grand Rapids Business Journal, and they were actually, when I told them that I sent in a proposal for our county ARPA funds, they were actually very interested in it. So even if I don't happen to get the funding for that, just know that there's an article that's going to be coming out, and they were very interested in that. So I'm not going to be mad at the commissioners if my proposal doesn't get chosen. I'm one of those people. I mean, you just don't get everything in life. But I am going to Chicago next week. I'm actually from Chicago. I'm going to the Esports Trade Association. It was $800 to get into that event, but I'm going to get some resources, as many resources, network with as many people as possible, because the Baxter Community Center's executive director actually asked me when our lieutenant governor was here, can I help them build an esports lab at the Baxter Community Center? So I'm going to be gaining some resources, all of the best quality resources that I can to build a community center. Not a community center, but an esports lounge here at the Baxter Community Center. I'm not too sure which county commissioner's district that it's in, but I'm looking to create something very innovative, something beautiful, something that can generate revenue, something that can create opportunities for our kids. So we won't have people like the Kia boys riding around in formation at King Park when I'm actually running the Urban Youth Summer Basketball League. So I've seen those kids in these cars. They're like 14, 15, 16 years old with no license driving around in stolen cars. You can't always get to these kids with our typical physical activity. So esports can be a way to get those kids to be able to potentially see an opportunity in something different and something that majority of kids in Generation Z are actually interested in. And so I look forward to going to this esports convention to go get some resources in my hometown, network with some people, but I'm also looking forward to coming back here with those resources and bringing them to the county, creating opportunities for kids, young adults, and elders. It's a lot of older people that play video games too, and so I'm just excited to put in this work, excited to create opportunities for people. I feel like I'm always at my best when I'm in a position to create opportunities for people. So I just really want to come here and tell you guys about the work I've been doing, work that I hope to do, and you guys will be hearing from me a lot more. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other public comment this morning? Seeing none, I will close public comment. That will bring us to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, we have moved from Commissioner Wooden, support by Commissioner Sparks. Questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of passing the consent agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no.
Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. We forgot to pass out the closed session minutes from the closed session at the last finance meeting, so Lisa's going to grab those.
I don't think we can do that now because we're past public comment, correct?
Yeah, it's the approval of the closed minutes. They're included in the consent agenda.
Yes, so
Right.
we've already approved the consent agenda. We should allow all the commissioners a chance to take a look at the closed session minutes. If somebody wants to reconsider the vote on the closed agenda, if there's something in the minutes they don't like, we can give them a second to make that
Okay.
motion to reconsider.
Got it. right, is there any need to reconsider the closed session minutes approval? Okay, seeing none, we will go to item number 3 on the agenda from Friend of the Court. Jenny?
The action requested is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve the Friend of the Court's FY '23 agreement with the State Court Administrator's Office to accept and appropriate $16,500 from SCAO to the 2022-23 Special Projects Fund, and to authorize the 17th Circuit Court Administrator to execute the grant agreement and approve grant extension and changes up to 15% of the original award. SCAO provides funding to counties to facilitate parental access and visitation. The Friend of the Court will contract with Journeys, Inc. to supervise the parenting time visits where the court feels there is a need for supervision. In 2021, 28 families used the AV grant funding for 282 visits and 334 hours of supervised parenting time. The grant period is from October 1 of this year to September 30th of 2023.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Bukowski, support by Commissioner Bolter. Questions, comments, or discussion? Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Well, I see the friend of the court here, so I figured I better ask him a question since he made it the walk across the street. I know you were, but you know, my time to give you grief is limited. So anyways, first and foremost, thank you and your staff for your great work. You know, I've had the opportunity to continue to see that as part of the Friend of the Court Advisory Committee. But for this grant, you know, $16,500, is this the totality of it, or is this one of those little pieces that get added along the way, or, because $16,500 doesn't seem like it's worth the paperwork at the end of the day.
Well, it serves the families that really need it. That is the amount of the grant for this next fiscal year. Year to date, we've, on our present grant, we've served 14 families, and it's really the only avenue some of the non-custodial parents have to see their children. And it's a safe environment at Journeys, and it's a way to introduce the children to the non-custodial parent. So it's a good thing to have. We've had this in place for quite a few years now.
Okay, anyone else? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, say no. That motion passes. That brings us to item number 4 from Kent County Community Action. Jenny?
Action requested is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept grants from the State of Michigan, the City of Grand Rapids, and the Area Agency on Aging of Western Michigan, and to appropriate $2,008,738 to the 2022-23 KCCA Fund, and to authorize the Board Chair to or designee to execute the grant agreement and approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. We have a list here in the AR of the various grant amounts and general fund transfers in to be accepted and appropriated to the Kent County Community Action Fund. The CSBG grant award is a 2-year grant that runs from October 1, 22 through September 30 of 24. And Corporate Counsel will review and approve all the documents as to form prior to signature.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Sparks, supported by Commissioner Wooden. Questions, comments, or discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes. Yes. Opposed, say no. That motion passes. That brings us to item number 5 from the Prosecutor's Office. Jenny?
Action requested is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve the Prosecutor's Office 2223 Crime Victim Rights Act grant with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to appropriate $1,021,705 to the Special Projects Fund, and to authorize the Board Chair or designee to execute the grant agreement and approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. MDHHS provides supplemental funding to counties to assist offices with implementing the requirements of the Crime Victims Act. The purpose of the grant is to provide victims with information regarding charges, their rights, and the name of the advocate in the Kent County Victim Witness Unit assigned to their case. along with information relative to the victim impact statement process and crime victim compensation information. For the 2021-22 grant year, the prosecutor's office has provided victim services to 3,302 new cases. The victim witness unit will continue to operate with 10 full-time positions, and the grant period is from October 1 of '22 through September 30th of '23. Prior to signature, Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Bolter, support by Commissioner Wooden. Questions, comments, and discussion? I don't see any, but I would like a roll call vote on this. Could we please call the roll for the entire committee?
Commissioner Wooden,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Sparks. Yes. Commissioner Antor, Commissioner Volkowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Womack, Commissioner Bolter,
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes. Thank you. That motion passes. That brings us to item 6, also from the prosecutor's office. Jenny?
Action requested is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners to appropriate $1,265,620 to the 2022-23 Title IV-E grant budget in the Special Projects Fund, and to authorize the board chair or designee to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. MDHHS provides supplemental funding to counties to operate a cooperative reimbursement program to enhance child protection and permanence. The estimated amount for the 22-23 fiscal year is $22,000. The grant agreement calls for the state to allocate up to $120,000 per year. The amount of reimbursement per month is based on the hours spent working on MDHHS cases. Prior to signature, Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Bolter, support by Commissioner Wooden. We'll take questions, comments, and discussion. Commissioner Bolkowski.
Yeah, this item just kind of confuses me because we're appropriating almost $1.3 million, and all of it is county general fund except for a whopping $22,000 from the state of Michigan, and I don't. It's just kind of confusing. Why? Yeah, just the numbers make not much sense to me.
Jeff or Marvin, you want to help us with this one?
Is it the 50% childcare fund? Is that the county's share?
The county share is like what, 98%? What, I mean, it's like, it doesn't make, if it's just the way we gotta do it, but it makes so little sense. But it's the state of Michigan,
We'll have fiscal services make some comments here.
maybe.
Excuse me, we'll probably have to look into it and get back to you. I think it's part of the normal budgeted process, but I just want to verify.
Okay. And we have time to do that before the board meeting. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. That motion passes. That brings us to item 7 from the Office of the Administrator. Jenny?
This is an action requested to approve the administrative CIP project proposal to be included in the county's 2023 budget resolution. The 2023 CIP requests were reviewed, and a recommendation was prepared by a staff committee, including representation from Facilities Management, IT, Sheriff, and Fiscal. During the July 19th CIP work session, the administrator's CIP proposal was reviewed in detail by the County Board of Commissioners. It includes 38 projects at a total estimated cost of $7,873,649. Financing of the CIP projects is proposed to be drawn from general fund support of $7.5 million and $347,000 from other sources. The board's CIP policy calls for a minimum of the equivalent of .2 mils to be allocated to the CIP budget annually. The general fund support for the 23 CIP proposal equates to the equivalent of .25 mils.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Wooden, supported by Commissioner Bulkowski. Questions, comments, and discussion? We'll start with Commissioner Bolter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Al, can you just real quick, I know we talked about this before, but what was the situation again with the bathrooms that we had requested in the last CIP? It came in over budget or something, so I guess I just wanted a refresher on the status of those for those parks.
Yeah, like so many other things that are affecting all of us, supply chain challenges, labor challenges, the costs for those the restrooms came in at double, hundreds of thousands of dollars more. We're working on a plan B, and I wish I had better news, but I mean, that's
So
it.
did the money that we appropriated for that then get rolled in, did it stay in the CIP?
The CIPs, if approved by the administrator, they can carry over from one year to the next, yes.
So none of those got done?
No, none of the CIP restrooms have been done yet, no.
Did we purchase those portable, we talked about the portable trailer restrooms, did we do that or no?
We tried real hard, and again, I'm sorry I don't have better news on this, but don't shoot the messenger, but none are available, zero, anywhere in the country.
Okay,
And we did Herculean efforts to try,
okay. So did we do a bid we went out to bid for the bathrooms?
yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Do you have those bids available to us?
Sure, we can, yeah, absolutely,
That'd be great,
Yeah.
thank you.
yeah. Sorry I didn't have better news on that.
It was just a priority of the board, so I just thought I'd ask. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Bulkowski.
Yeah, just since this is probably the last time we see this as it gets then wrapped into the budget for November, just in doing the summary page, the two numbers would be the 17.3 million that was requested, but in that, a bunch of the not a bunch, a number of the significant projects are being taken care of outside of CIP, and how to kind of tell the fuller picture of the efforts of Al and his team to get this stuff done and other departments, where it looks like we're doing less than half of the requested maintenance, or more than maintenance, So anyways, it's not at all a problem with the item, it's the problem in the storytelling. We're not telling a good enough story of how well we're taking care of our stuff, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Again, it says 17.3, but then you got to look at, a few notes and cross-reference past stuff to figure out that, no, we're really doing over $10 million worth of projects, because some of these things were taken off next year and put in this year. And so anyways, it just, to tell about those great efforts of Al and his team in a better way in this first page. Again, it's, maybe it gets put in the budget book in a clear way. It's more, but clear, more simple math. Does that make sense?
Welcome back to the mic, Jeff.
Back a lot today. I think two of the larger projects you speak of one was from the sheriff and one was from IT. We
Yep.
took those earlier,
Yep.
a month ago. That was about $3.5 million, so
Yep.
that is a significant investment. So we can try to point that out in the memo at some point, in the administrator's letter in the budget book perhaps, but we'll talk that through with him.
Yeah, either take it, where to take it out, because in this CIP, it still says that there were 17.3 million requested, which is a true statement, but we funded way more than 7.8 because we used the strategic capital. And just to let folks, again, if people read this, they're gonna read maybe page 1. And this says, yeah, we're doing an okay job, but we're doing way better than an okay job, I guess is my point. And to to let folks know why, especially the projects that are over $1 million as opposed to those over 16,500, you know?
There's also a couple IT projects that we funded from a previous CIP too. That was a fairly large amount, so.
Yep, cool, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Chair. I realize that we may not be able to get this answer this morning, but do we know if Administrator Vandenberg continued the bathroom CIP projects, at least if, allow them to continue in their current CIP, even if they did not greenlight the project, so that the funds didn't get reappropriated? Am I making sense with that question?
Right.
In other words,
Is the money still set aside? Is the money still set aside for them, even
Do
if
you
the
know
projects
that,
haven't
Jeff?
started?
Money is still set aside in a
Okay.
separate CIP, yes.
Gotcha. And I guess,
For the restrooms, for the parks.
Correct.
Great.
yeah, that's just, hopefully, we, as someone who spends some time in the construction industry, every week we hear one little speck of good news, usually followed by 2 other specks of bad news, but hopefully prices might be able to come back down to make them more reasonable. So, thank you.
I believe Al did send out an update on the bathrooms too, an email to everybody, so maybe you can, I don't know, Jenny, if you can find that, resend it maybe.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, I'd like a roll call vote on this too, please.
Commissioner Wooden,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Sparks. Commissioner Antor, Commissioner Bulkowski.
Yes.
Commissioner Womack, Commissioner Bolter,
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes. That motion passes. That will bring us to item number 8 from the Health Department. Jenny?
Thank you. Action requested is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve the Michigan Public Health Training Center contract, accept and appropriate $10,000 to the 2021-22 Health Fund budget, and to authorize the board chair or designee to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. The Health Department has received a continuation grant from the University of Michigan to serve as a community-based training partner for the Region 5 Michigan Public Health Training Center. This is the second 4-year award that the department has received. The purpose is to expand the work that began in the first 4-year award to strengthen the capacity of the health workforce to deliver quality public health services. During the first 4-year grant award, the Health Department provided hands-on public health experience to several student interns in a variety of programs ranging from environmental health to emergency preparedness. The Health Department also hosted a series of trainings about public health ethics. The grant term is July 1, 22 through June 30, 26, and provides $10,000 per year for 4 years. Assistant Corporal Counsel will review and approve the agreement prior to signature.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wooden, supported by Commissioner Sparks, and we'll take questions, comments, and discussion. Commissioner Bulkowski?
Well, I have to ask it only because it's even less than $16,500. What can you do for $10,000, especially in light of a pandemic and other things coming down the road and the critical nature? Again, I agree totally with all of this, and then it seems like there's a zero missing or 2 zeros about the capacity needed for you and your team to train the folks out in the field.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I agree with you. It'd be great if that was $100,000 per year, not $10,000. But it is pretty amazing what we were able to do with $10,000. Most of the work was done with students and their employees who were doing their regular job anyway. So all of a sudden, we had master's level public health students working along our side. And the extra funds, this extra $10,000 allowed for some trainings that we would otherwise would have to use general fund to use. So there are a plethora of students who came to Kent County Health Department, had a great experience, kind of caught the public health bug, and now are looking for employment in the area because of this very small grant.
Okay, anyone else? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. That motion passes. That brings us to item number 9, also from the Health Department. Jenny?
Action requested is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve the Spectrum Health Hospitals contract, accept and appropriate $444,474 to the 21-22 Health Fund budget for the Strong Beginnings Pay for Success program, and authorize the board chair or designee to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Strong Beginnings is a home visiting program that uses community health workers to work alongside nurses and social workers and the maternal and infant health program to reduce barriers to care for pregnant women, infants, and toddlers through community outreach, case management, screening, and education. The Strong Beginnings program goals are to improve birth outcomes and to decrease the rate of infant mortality. There's some data here on the successes from the past. The Pay for Success program employs 4 full-time community health workers, all who have full caseloads. There's currently a waiting list of clients referred to for Strong Beginnings services. The grant term is from September 1, 22 through December 31, 23. Assistant Corporate Counsel will review and approve the agreement as to form prior to signature.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Sparks, supported by Commissioner Wooden, and we'll take questions, comments, and discussion, and we'll start with Commissioner Bolter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will need to abstain due to employment issues with this one.
Sure. Anyone else? Questions, comments, or discussion? Commissioner Bolkowski?
A waiting list. How long is that waiting list and where's, because again, this is an excellent program, doing excellent work. You know, the success of bending the curve from the 3.3 times higher for African-American babies, the death rate, down to 2. It's still a ways to go, but we're moving in the right direction. And how can we have a waiting list?
Well, our waiting list is small, and actually, we're okay with the waiting list because they're also in other services. These are moms and babies that are enrolled in MIHP, and the MIHP nurse or social worker thinks they would also benefit from a community health worker from Strong Beginnings. So they're put on a list, and as soon as there is capacity from a community health worker, that community health worker also enters in and helps provide support. The waiting list is 2 or 3 people, and usually the turnaround time is pretty quick, within a couple weeks.
All right. I mean, that's good to hear because, yeah, I mean, if a baby 2 months old needs it, you can't wait 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, so keep up the excellent work.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, all those in favor, please say yes. Yes. Those opposed, say no. Any abstentions?
Abstention.
1 abstention. This motion passes. That brings us to item 10, which is the second quarter financial status report. Welcome again, Jeff.
Thank you. Good morning again. Does everyone have a copy of the report in front of them? Great. So if I can quickly, Chair, I'm going to jump back to the Title IV-E grant. Marva did some looking up. That is the normal process for that particular grant. It's mostly general fund support with a little bit of federal support. There is a Title IV-D grant that is primarily federal, 1.4 federal, 2.1 total, so 700K general. So that'll be forthcoming yet, but that's the answer to that particular question.
Okay, thanks.
So if we look at the cover sheet of the quarterly report, you can see overall through the second quarter of July, revenues increased from 42.8 million to 47 million, or 9.7% over the prior fiscal year. And expenditures were up 16.7% from 80.2 to 93.2. We'll go over the details of that in a second. Page 2 shows you the revenue and expense summary. Taxes is the first category I'm going to talk about. You'll see it increased 5.9% to 3.36 million, and that is in line with projections. If you remember last quarterly report, they were actually down, but they have obviously caught up and exceeded last year, so we are on track for that. Other revenues have increased from 3.3 to 6.2, and this is primarily due to some ARPA funding. We made those allocations earlier this year, and with the accounting of it, that increased that other revenue category. Interest earnings is also up from 2.3 to 2.6, and as we heard from the treasurer, I think it was the last finance meeting, he's been doing some additional investing in securities and things which have increased his yield, so we expected to see that increase. On the expenditure side, you can see personnel category increase from 41.5 to 49.5, or 19%, which is fairly high. However, if you recall, we offset some sheriff and health department wages last year with CARES funding, so it kind of distorted the numbers for 1 year, so we're seeing this back to a more normal trend. And there was also, of course, wage increases in there through union negotiations and things. Supplies is up a bit from 1.2 to 1.5, and there's various categories there. Transfers out have also increased from 15.5 to 19.7. Again, 2.3 of that was for the public health budget with CARES funding, and the rest aligns with the budget. We still anticipate meeting our 40% fund balance at the end of the year. Moving on to page 4, you can see this is a different representation of the same information. This is departmental. Revenues really are the same presentation. You can see the expenditures are by department. The biggest things are what we just spoke about. Sheriff is up and transfers out, and that's through that CARE funding transfers primarily. The rest of them are pretty much in line with normal fluctuations. Moving on to page 5, you can see fund balance increased from 82.5 million to 84.6. So a good increase there, and you can see our cash flow and our economic stabilization assignment. Moving on to page 6, you can see cash actually decreased from 50 million to 42.9 million, 66 days to 53 days, and again that was related to CARES funding that was in the fund last year that is no longer there. So it does create some swings when you get these large grants, but nothing unusual. This is back to more normal levels. Page 7 shows the cash flow summary graph, which I like to show. It shows, you can see our lowest time is in the June-July timeframe before our taxes come in. So you can see the red line is 2022 available to meet our cash flow, and pretty much in line with the last several years. Moving on to page 8, this is our lodging excise tax fund. We started adding this during COVID when this took a significant downturn, but this is all good news this year. You can see taxes, which is the hotel motel tax, went from 2.5 million to 4.4 million, almost a 74% increase. So nice rebound there. And along with that, expenses will go up because we pay a percent of those to Experience Grand Rapids, so nothing unusual there. And then the last page, on page 9, it's a little bit busy, but we like to show all the pieces of that fund. There's a dip in 2023, and that's because we're going to change the fiscal year end, and that debt payment then will not show up in that year. So that's why that year shows a big dip, but then it's back to normal levels. I like to focus on the general fund advance. You can see we think we're going to be able to start paying that back a little sooner. It's currently outstanding at $10 million. We hope to have that fully reimbursed by 2028 or 2029. And you can see the different pieces of that graph. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Commissioner Wooden?
Thank you, Chair. One comment and 2 questions. One, just to echo what you were talking about with our cash flow projections and our cash balance projections, when it looks compared to last year, it is good to see that 2022, if we're looking at that flow chart, is still higher than 2020 and 2019. And then the other question was regarding the lodging excise tax fund. I'm seeing, you mentioned the dip in 2023 because of the fiscal year change. Does the spike in the actual fund balance of the lodging excise tax fund is that also attributed to that fiscal year change?
It is, exactly. Yep.
Perfect. And then lastly, looking at the full statement of our general fund revenues and expenditures through Q2, I'm looking at the net revenue and the increase from last year. Are we at all starting to think that our budgeted amount of fund lapse, of appropriation lapse, may not be what we end up hitting at the end of the year, the 6.5 million? Are we expecting a slightly lower appropriation lapse, something on target, or is it too early to tell?
It's a little early to tell. The last several years, we've actually done better than that $6.5 million lapse, which has allowed us to transfer an additional amounts to strategic capital. So I anticipate a similar result this year, but it is a little too early to tell.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Commissioner Polkowski.
Yeah, when you come back for third quarter, maybe to add another column just of comparison to budget, because percent change, as an example, you noted on the general fund, the sheriff is 24.6% above what it expended same quarter last year, but it's actually less than half of the budgeted amount halfway through the year. And the excise tax, while it's 73.9% above last year's amount, it's actually almost 400,000 under budget halfway through the year. Now, I know, of course, the lodging excise tax has some seasonal varieties, and so, but, and how that 400,000 plays out, even though, again, percentage, it's way ahead of last year, but again, last year was a COVID year and all that rot. So to me, it's better to tell the picture of where we are as to budget as opposed to change from last year. Because again, you keep mentioning, which is the truth, that, last year was so different because of COVID, and even like the personnel expenditure, where the personnel expenditure is way higher than last year, but it's still less than budget.
Okay, so you're asking for an additional column to compare, for instance, on the sheriff on page 4, so there's 34.3 million in expenses under the sheriff category?
Yep.
Comparing that to the 73.7 of the
Yep.
budget? Okay.
Yeah, so again, percent of budget year to date, because that would be more important, because again, it shows, wow, the sheriff is 24.6% ahead. No, actually, the sheriff is less than half of their expenditures for the year, so we shouldn't worry.
We can take a look at that, sure.
Yeah, again, hopefully it's just a quick column in Excel, not looking for extra work. Even I know how to make that column. So if you need help, let me know.
Okay,
All right,
I'll call you.
all right, thanks.
Okay, anyone else? All right, thank you so
Thank you.
much, Jeff. That is going to bring us to Commissioner Miscellaneous. Is there any Commissioner Miscellaneous this morning? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned. Our next meeting is Tuesday, September 6th at 8:30 a.m.